Guys, good to be with you again here. Congratulations. I want to begin with that. Congratulations to our women on last night's win over Tennessee. What a great game that was. Great performance by them. Obviously, it's an exciting day for us, given the fact that we have assembled a really exciting recruiting class, and finally get a chance to answer questions about those four guys and talk about them. It's a really exceptional class on paper, but more importantly, I think it's another really good class. It's back-to-back really good classes that I think fit us, fit our program, fit the kind of versatility and size that we're looking to add. So we're really excited about Devin, Scotty, Austin, and Tayson. We have a diverse group in terms of their skill sets and how they fit each other, and backing that up with the class, the current freshman class we have here is an exciting day for us for sure. Looking forward to another test tomorrow night against Charleston Southern. We've been in the midst of preparing for them. I have some familiarity with them from years ago. Great respect for their coach, who's a friend. Barkley does a really good job. They've got a young group that they've got two young all-conference players that are really gifted. They're an athletic team, beat Missouri a couple years ago. So obviously we're in the midst of preparation for that. Questions?
Chris, your first couple of years, you had good classes. Seems like you've taken the next step in your recruiting. First of all, what do you attribute that to? And second of all, is that a momentum thing? Is there such thing for you as continuing to just build momentum on the trail?
Well, I think we do want to back up these two classes with another really good class that fits us in 24. I do think that's really important. You're always trying to do that. For us to achieve the kind of things that we aspire to, I think we need to do that. And we're off to a good start in terms of recruiting in that class. I think I've been asked that before. What have been some of the reasons? I think it's probably a combination of things. I think people have looked at our program. We have been nationally relevant in our time here. So they've seen that you can win here. And then I think the fact that we have now had a couple guys drafted and more than a couple guys who are in the NBA is also a factor. And our staff has done a really good job and a really thorough job in evaluating, recruiting, and building relationships. I love the fact that we have a couple of Ohio kids with this group as well. So I think it's a combination of factors, really, and certainly the momentum of last year's class helped, and also the success that some of our guys have had individually. You look at that and you say that's probably a factor as well.
Is there a difference between recruiting to compete in the Big Ten and recruiting to compete in the NCAA tournament? And have you learned that you have to do both over your time here, and now you guys feel like you can really do both?
Yeah, I think you're trying to just recruit the best players, the best fits. If you're asking, hey, is there some things you've looked at to say, hey, can this help you potentially more in the NCAA tournament versus the Big Ten? I think obviously size has been important in the Big Ten. I think athleticism in the tournament is something we felt like we probably needed to increase a little bit, and that's something we tried to do.
Chris, what was it like putting this class together in the last couple of months? Because obviously it was kind of one class for a little while, and then you had some late additions. As you're looking at plugging needs and finding the top available talent, what were those last couple of weeks like putting this together?
It was a lot, as you can expect. It was a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of meetings. We had to pivot a bit in our recruiting just because we felt like there was a direction that was important for us to go in kind of capping this class that was going to be had the chance to kind of make it a solid class to a really good class. So the final couple months were really important with just some of the final additions that we got committed to us. And I think it was, a good start, but I think it turned into potentially a really good class.
And bringing in Scotty and Devin, and obviously they both committed in like the span of a couple of days, but
Yeah.
when you add those two guys who maybe can do some similar things but also seem to complement each other, how do you see those two, their roles kind of fitting with each other going forward?
I think you'll see them play together, Adam, for sure. I think you'll see them play together. I think Scotty has the ability to be an elite defender, and we're going to need that, but his offensive game has continued to grow. He brings a competitiveness to him. And Devin's, we've been recruiting Devin for a couple of years, but his growth was really obvious to us, and he just kept getting better. It's a credit to him and his work ethic. He's a wonderful kid, and we really love getting to know him, as I have all four of those guys. But obviously a guy in your backyard, you kind of build that relationship with. But he's going to be a really good offensive player. He's going to be a really good player in general, but he brings a real offensive skill set. And Scotty he's got some real ability on both ends, but a chance to be special defensively at this level.
Hey, Chris. Two things for you. First of all, if the right kid came along, could you fit one more?
I think I'd want to answer that at the appropriate time. I'm not sure right now if I could answer that. Right now we're at our limit. So if you're saying, hey, right now, is it a definite that you would add another, or is that your aim? Not necessarily. Obviously, we know how rosters in college basketball evolve and transition in the spring. So that would be something that we would evaluate in the spring potentially.
Sure. Something else in this class, you had a couple Ohio kids. Obviously, you want to win at home. Last year, you took a couple of kids. You had State Player of the Year in Florida, State Player in Georgia. Obviously, you'd love to have best kids in Ohio every year and win with Ohio kids.
Yeah.
But the fact that this year you're able to do that and maybe demonstrate that for future years, how critical is it to your long-term plan?
It's important for us. There's no question. This state is important to us. We've tried to make it a priority every single year, and I think we've been. Malachi was an Ohio kid. I think we've been very successful at prioritizing kids that we feel like are, players that we want to prioritize from this state and aggressively recruiting them. It is a balance. Guys that'll tell you that in my position, that have been in my position, it's a balance, right? If you offer them too early, other kids could get frustrated if they don't get offered at that time. If you offer them too late, they can be offended by it. When you are the head coach at the state university and you're recruiting, and I know Ryan goes through this. There's a balance there, so it takes extensive conversations, trying to really evaluate early, get early evaluations, and then zeroing in on those kids we've identified, and we have gotten the ones we've really zeroed in on, and our staff deserves credit for that. And obviously Malachi helps, being an Ohio kid, having great success here individually his first year. That puts him on a platform for other kids to say, wow, that was pretty impressive for 1 year. So we're grateful for that. And obviously EJ being an out-of-state kid gives that an example for kids who come from out of state.
Chris, how much does the construction of this current roster help in recruiting? And when you're playing 4 freshmen as it is, does that help telling kids, hey, you guys can come here and play right away?
I think that, but you really, we've had examples of that in the past, maybe not nearly as significant as this team in this year, with 4 freshmen playing this number of minutes. But they don't have to look very far to say, okay, Malachi played, upwards of 25 minutes from January through March. So they can see it. Now, some of that was by necessity, but obviously he proved his value. So I do think that it helps when you can demonstrate that you're willing to play freshmen. And our 4 freshmen, they'll vary in how much they play on a given night. the reality of where they're at.
Just reviewing the game the other night, what were some of your, after you had a chance to review it, what were some of your primary thoughts about it? And watching it, I couldn't recall a lot of cases where I saw a shot go up and said, that wasn't a very good shot. There may have been a couple threes early in a shot clock once or twice, but otherwise it seemed like you had great ball movement. And were you happy with shot selection and just other observations, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. For the most part, Steve, I was. We had a couple possessions that I thought were wasted possessions offensively, where we didn't move at the level we needed to, and where we had a couple foolish turnovers and just careless turnovers and just plays that weren't there. But that's not going to be the last time we're going to see this. And that's the reality of playing young kids and a new team. And that's a reality for every team this early in the year. You know, I also think tomorrow we're going to see really good athletes, as good as we've seen, good length and some pressure. And I think that's going to force our guys to be able to make some decisions. But I thought offensively we did some good things. I thought defensively we were able to sustain an effort for a little bit longer. Thought we were, again, if you said anything looking back on it, we got to continue to rebound the ball better, and we got to take a little bit better decision that we turned it over too much.
Coach, you talked about pivoting late in the recruiting cycle for this year. Tayson obviously being the last commit there. I guess what about him kind of takes the class from, like you said, a solid one to a really special one?
Well, and when I say pivot, it was really that last kind of 2-month period where we were in the midst of recruiting Devin, Scotty, and then figuring out what we wanted to do. And just, again, I thought in Austin was really important for us. Basically the whole Big Ten was recruiting him. And when the whole Big Ten recruits, he's 6'11", 270 right now. He's a big kid. And he was really important for us. So he kind of anchored us, but we felt like, okay, we need to add to it with some versatile pieces and special guys. And then once we realized we had a chance to get a player like Tayson, who we felt like could add to us as a point/combo, we were really excited about that possibility. And we knew we were in a good place with Devin and Scotty. But once they finally committed, and I got pictures on my phone of celebrating when both those guys committed. It was a pretty happy time. But Tayson, obviously, we felt like just added to a really good class, and that was important to keep recruiting.
And then any update on Gene's status for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, Gene will not be available tomorrow.
Owen, I think he did play the other day. Is this a case that he gets to play a few games and can still redshirt, or is that?
He'll play.
One game,
no
but
redshirt.
He's going to play, and you'll use him as needed.
Yeah. Owen, or do you say Bowen? I'm sorry.
Bowen Hartman.
Okay, Bowen.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't anticipate redshirting Bowen.
Okay. What maybe changed with that? Just the idea that
Yeah, no, I think I think he just
his
needs.
performance in the exhibition, where he
No.
doing all those threes.
No.
He was your leading freshman scorer in the exhibition.
Was he?
least
I
right?
didn't
More
I didn't
field
realize
goals.
that. He can really shoot it. No, I think it was more or less just, we felt like it was the right decision.
Chris, you talked about, all three of your guys on the front court, but with Austin Parks being that anchor for you, just what exactly as an anchor has he brought to this class? And, you mentioned his size, but what else is there besides his size that really adds to this class?
I think you're always looking in this state for a kid who is big. He's big, again, 6'11", 260. He'd probably play at 260, 255 maybe. I probably put a few pounds on him saying 270, so I apologize. Let's call him 260, okay? But big, strong, physical kid, and he's a good vertical athlete. He's got to get better laterally, but he's a good vertical athlete. So when you're 6'11", and you're a good vertical athlete, he can run. He has to get better laterally. He's got good touch, and you're an Ohio kid. Again, he had basically every Big Ten school, recruiting him. So I just think we've really tried to prioritize kids like that from our state, because as you guys know, there's not a ton of those guys from your state.
And then you were talking about, these last 2 months and how quickly everything has really happened. Looking at Tayson specifically, you guys got him for that visit in September, and then it felt like 2 weeks. It was a pretty quick turnaround from that visit to him announcing his commitment. What were those couple of weeks like for you in terms of communication and stuff like that with him?
Good, but it might have seemed quick for you. For us, we had a lot of hours and a lot of time leading up to that. But we always kind of knew that was a possibility. But once we knew he was in decision-making mode, we wanted to visit him as quickly as possible, and then we knew at that point it was going to be, hound him until he says yes.
The last couple of years down there,
With tomorrow's game, but also in general, with a team that's lost 4 or 5 guys, but they're adding 5 or 6 transfers. There's a few teams in the Big Ten that are kind of in a similar boat. How difficult does that make preparing when you have to tell your guys, we don't really have film on these guys playing together, so how are you going to best
For Charleston
prepare your guys?
Southern.
Well, that, and then just in general, because there will be
Yeah.
other teams that are similar.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think you see more of that right now in college basketball, right? Where just the number of turnover. I will say this, their leading perimeter scorer is returning, and their all-conference big kid is a sophomore, and he is a really good big kid. He is a load in there. And he's returning, so you have familiarity with those guys. They were shooting 4 returning, so they have some guys returning that we're familiar with. The rest of them, it's a little bit of learn on the fly, commit to your system.
Chris, if I'm not mistaken, there late in the game, you had Roddy running the point a little bit, showed some nice court vision, I thought made some nice passes. Is that an emergency situation? Is that a depth thing? And what have you seen in practice to allow that?
I think it's an evolution thing for him. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be predominantly where he's going to play. He will play make for us, but I think it's a lot to throw on him. We're teaching him both wing positions, but I think it's an eventual evolution for him.
Is that more of a non-conference thing, just bank it for next year, hopefully, that sort of thing?
No, I think you always have in your mind, probably like the quarterback position, you always have in your mind, your third or / fourth point guard, and you want them to have some experience in case you have a guy turn an ankle or something.
Chris, after I think it was the exhibition game, you were asked about not having that go-to guy, and that the players had said they thought any guy could do it, and you kind of said, "Oh, to be young."
Yeah.
Are you not as confident that guys can do that right now as maybe your players are?
No, I think we have guys that are capable. I love the confidence of that. I think I've said all along there's got to be more balance within this group. Across the board, because there's greatness in consistency, right? And there's greatness in consistency. And when you have a great offensive player like EJ, you can put him down basically for between 18 to 20 a night. That just shows great offensive ability at this level. My point was, I think you're going to have more. Maybe this will be the leading scorer. That guy will be the leading scorer. I do think you have more of that variety. And I also think we'll have some guys who will consistently score for us, maybe just not to that level.
And when you get into some of these tougher non-conference games, especially down in Big Ten, can that work to be a little bit more spread out than give it to Malachi, give it to EJ, Kata, whoever? Or do you need somebody to kind of emerge in that role, or a couple guys to emerge?
I think we will need somebody to emerge, but I also think you have to play to the strengths of your team, and I think the strengths of our team are going to be our balance. I thought we got maybe a little bit too reliant at times last year. You always do end in the year, kind of get reliant on your kind of go-to or best players, but we might have got a little bit too reliant last year.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.